Tonight, UberX, the slave drivers, the rideshare giant, has been given the green light to operate here, but there's a lot they're not telling us. Experts are warning about signing up with them, and Hendrik Gout's investigation reveals why.
I'm looking for that day when the rights of the Uber riders, the drivers, will come first.
He's Mike Ozzie. He's an Australian Uber driver, and he's taking on the might of mighty America. San Francisco, home of the ride-sharing giant Uber, ranked 48th most powerful company in the US, estimated worth more than $60 billion.
Capricious is repressive and oppressive, and I think it's time for the whole Australia to know what is happening.
There was a time when Mike was happy working with Uber.
It gave me flexibility, and the money was good.
Mike bought 2 cars, borrowing the money, an investment in his future as an Uber driver. And passengers liked him.
The feedbacks were things like, Mike is a good driver, your rating is 4.7, which is above the average.
He hadn't counted on this, a contract he'd signed with Uber, 70 closely crammed clauses over a dozen closely packed pages, and at the end, a space for a signature to sign away the rights that many Australians have probably taken for granted.
You're asked to sign a contract which has been very carefully drafted.
By Uber?
By Uber. No doubt a driver could try and negotiate, but the chances of negotiating with a multi-billion-dollar company, yeah, not so much.
Last week, Adelaide University law professor Andrew Stewart told a Sydney conference that once you sign that contract, your job security is Uber and out.
Uber can pay them or not, as the case may be. Uber's got the power under the contract to change its fees, change its cut. It can change the contract any time it likes. So this is a pretty one-sided contract.
As Mike Ozzie found out, when, without notice or explanation, Uber simply deregistered him, sacked him, in other words.
I've been driving in Australia for 8 years. I've got just one speeding fine in 2009, and that's it. Other than that, my record is plain. I've got a very good driving history.
Mike demanded answers from Uber's regional boss.
And he told me that my account was being deactivated, that they had some complaints with regards to me driving while I was tired. So I asked him, I was like, what do you mean? I've been getting all these feedbacks. You know what I mean? How come you never told me about this?
The contract says it doesn't have to tell him. Uber can terminate, deactivate at any time.
Certainly having a provision that says that Uber can change the terms of the contract whenever they like to say whatever they like doesn't look pretty fair. It looks pretty one-sided, and I suspect a court might agree if that were actually challenged.
That's what Mike is doing now. He's suing the company, which declined our request for an on-camera interview.
They are exerting total control of our operations and saying that it's our way or the highway. That just doesn't make sense. It's not just wrong.
A US lawsuit cost Uber $100 million, small change for the global giant, and Australian class action is a possibility. But there's a catch. This looks like Amsterdam, and it is Amsterdam. Here in the Netherlands, in this building, Uber has its Australian office.
Well, according to the contract that Uber gets its drivers to sign, this is a contract that's governed by the law of the Netherlands, and that if you want to raise any issue, you'd have to go to a Dutch court to do that.
Meanwhile, in the States, Uber's business model includes having sabotaged competitor ride-sharing services and muckraking on reporters who criticise the company. We therefore sought to speak with Professor Alan Fells, former head of the ACCC. He's the one who did the inquiry into the Victorian taxi industry, which recommended more drivers' rights. Alas, Professor Fells wouldn't comment because he's now been hired by Uber. So, Uber goes on with the right to increase drivers' fees on a whim, modify the agreement anytime, and charge drivers for incidentals.
They have to pay for the data charges, and they can be pretty significant.
It's no consolation to Mike Ozzie. He's now got 2 cars not earning money and 2 car loans he can't repay.
I used to be doing very well, and now I'm on benefits. I find it quite humiliating.